Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I love this part of the college football season because we settle into these nice rhythms where we know, hey, this day is going to be this show and this day is going to be this show. And we have this nice pattern to the week. And then, Tony, this is the show we're supposed to record before we went to interviews on Tuesday. And our schedules didn't work out. So now we're recording after we went to interviews on Tuesday. And then schedules also didn't work out for our post-interview live show. Tony, this whole day is throwing my feng shui off. I am very unsettled right now because we are way out of rhythm for this week.
Yeah, and for continuity's sake, let's not mention any of that on the show, okay?
Good. Smart.
Let's keep...
We're all about maintaining that fourth wall on this show, Tony.
Yes.
It's been longstanding policy.
My life motto is keep the lie going, and let's just try to keep doing that with this one. I have no idea what Ryan Day and Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly are going to say tomorrow or anything like that. But no, we are going to talk about what we saw after a rewatch of Ohio State's 38-7 win over Michigan State. And this is, I'll go first. This is something that's not necessarily from that rewatch, but after I had forgotten all of the fourth downs that Ohio State went for. I believe they finished 4 or 5 on the day, and the one they didn't get was Julian Sand throwing the ball downfield on 4th and 1. But one takeaway from this is that opposing defensive coordinators and opposing head coaches do not want Ohio State being aggressive on 4th down. They want to relax after stopping them on 3rd and whatever. And whether that leads to a punt or a field goal, that is a win for every single defense. They do not want Ohio State taking 4 cracks at a series trying to get a first down or a touchdown. And we saw them score, 2 touchdowns on 4th down against Michigan State, going forward on 4th and 3, 4th and 5. In the 4th and 5, you kind of understand because it was a long field goal. The 4th and 3, to me, is it's not just analytics says go for this. The head coach also has to buy in and want to remain aggressive. And I think that's an interesting sign. When Ryan Day says leave no doubt before the season ever starts, part of that is, you know what? Let's go for 7 instead of 3.
And I think that's something that is, number one, part of leave no doubt. Number two, just he trusts this team. He has a quarterback he trusts. He has running backs he trusts. He has wide receivers he trusts. He has an offensive line he trusts. All of that is, you trust this year that the offensive line, if it's 4th and 1, you trust this year that the offensive line is going to be able to get that blocked up to get you that yard or yard and a half. You trust that those running backs are going to turn the 1 yard that's blocked into or 1.5 yards that it's blocked into 2.5 or 3 yards. And you trust that your quarterback's going to put the ball in the right spot. Your quarterback's going to make the right read if it's a read play. The quarterback is going to put it in a good spot for the wide receivers, and the wide receivers are going to catch it. They didn't catch everything on Saturday night, but on the whole, this is a veteran team. This is a team that Ryan Day trusts. This is a team that Ryan Day believes in. It's an offensive coordinator Ryan Day believes in. It feels like I dropped a new show with Ross Fulton talking about the offense on Tuesday, and that is it. You can just sort of tell the offense is just so much more cohesive and so much more structured this year. And there's always an answer. There's always a counterpunch. And sometimes it just got a little harried than previous years when Ryan Day was trying to do 3 jobs at once. Everything right now with the offense is good enough and strong enough that they can take those chances, because what would be 50-50 calls are now maybe 60-40 calls or 70-30 calls. And if that doesn't work, well, you've got a defense on the other side that has given up the fewest points per game of any of a defense in the country. So even a mistake probably is not going to turn into 7 points the other way. And also, you can, if you can score a touchdown, that really, really matters, because the defense isn't giving up any points at all. So you'd rather, you can try and put the game away with a touchdown earlier rather than just trying to kind of go punch for punch with the opponent.
Okay.
All right. So that was a good observation. This is one that I think we probably talked about some on the post-game show, but I really noticed on my rewatch, man, oh man, the blocking outside for those wide receivers was really good. I mean, the broadcast singled out Emeka Egbuka a few times, with Jeremiah Smith had some nice blocks outside. I mean, you could even lump in Travion Henderson. We talked, I think, a little bit about Travion Henderson blitz pickups, but man, that's something I generally just don't get to see, because Travion Henderson blitz pickups are happening on the other side of very large human beings between the opposing defensive line and the Ohio State offensive line. So on, for example, the touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith, Travion Henderson looked like he saved Devin Brown's life with a blitz pickup, with a corner blitz. And all that stuff, that's all just the little nitty gritty stuff that coaches talk about a bunch, and I think fans generally kind of go, nah. Why do I care how the wide receiver blocks? That, why is that an important part of a freshman getting on the field? That's why, because you saw on the Jeremiah Smith touchdown, I think it was Carnell Tate maybe had on the end around, Carnell Tate or Emeka Egbuka, one of them had a really good seal block on the edge that got him around, and you saw Jeremiah Smith had a nice block on one of the long runs, I think. I mean, just they're doing all the little stuff that good teams do. And it's not exciting. It's not the stuff that's going to show up on SportsCenter or on College Game Day or College Football Final or whatever. But man, oh man, they're just doing all the little stuff. And all these wide receivers are just so well-rounded. It's not just, look at how well they catch the ball, look at how well they run after the catch. It's all the other stuff that coaches really care about, NFL teams are going to really care about, and that really does make a difference.
Watching, my first note was that Emeka Egbuka doesn't get anybody on the first play, but gets everybody after that. Basically, he was a heck of a blocker on the day. I think I even did a old man recording, watching him peacock with my phone type of thing, getting Emeka Egbuka block later on in the game. And when those guys are blocking like that, it opens up so much of the offense. You can do so many more things. You can call those plays knowing that there's a pretty good chance that they're going to hit, or at least not get stopped for a loss, and they're going to keep you on schedule. So when you've got your wide receivers who are bought in like that, and we've talked about Carnell Tate before, I think it was the first game of the season when he had a pancake downfield on the sideline. These guys love, as much as a receiver can love to block, these guys do, and they're effective at it. And I still remember back when the Big Ten Media Days, when Emeka Egbuka was talking about how he didn't like his strength rating on the video game. And he said, there are other receivers out there who are smaller than him who have a higher strength rating. And he's like, I'm 205. Those other guys are like 190. So this is a guy that takes pride in playing big. And we saw him put Cal Halladay on his back, Michigan State starting linebacker. So like he put that dude in the ground, and yeah, they get after it, which kind of goes into another thing that I got here, is that Chip Kelly had Michigan State going back and forth from sideline to sideline, essentially making them seasick, basically, because they're going just, doing this and getting queasy. And you can't do that without the perimeter blocking. It's good that you've got athletes at running back, and you've got a quarterback that can make the proper reads. But unless you've got somebody blocking out wide and helping and making sure that those plays go, there's no point in going east to west. You should just go north, south, so that you don't have to get the receivers too involved. But it's those guys that are going to create the long ones. And when they're bought in like this, then the potential of your running game and passing game and those out passes, those quick screens are all extensions of the running game. So we know you're not going to play unless you block. I mean, they mean it at Ohio State, and you're seeing that the best blockers, it's no coincidence that they're also the best wide receivers and the pass catchers, because they put in the most work and they take it seriously.
Well, I think that's an extension of a lot of the best wide receivers at Ohio State, and a lot of the best players at Ohio State over the years have also been really good punt gunners and on the punt blocking team. And it's all the same stuff. If you're willing to put in the work there, then you're going to be willing to put in the work on blocking, and then you're going to be willing to put in the work on the stuff that you actually want to do. Then you actually get to go run your routes and catch passes. That's dessert. But first you got to, you got to eat your vegetables. You got, Tony, you have to have the full medley. There's going to be some squash in there. I'm very sorry. There's going to be some squash and there's going to be some special teams. And I know you don't like squash, but you have to have your special teams and your squash before you get to have your dessert. I'm very sorry. Don't worry. The dessert's very good. The dessert is in the end zone. They get there eventually. But yeah, there is a lot of kind of just a little bit, it's not exactly thankless because it's something that's valued so highly internally, but publicly it's kind of thankless. It's not the kind of stuff that you see people tweeting out GIFs and photos and whatever online on Twitter. It's just, it's the stuff that your teammates appreciate more than anything else.
Yeah, with the catching, like you got mossed. Nobody's ever like, you got tated, with Carnell Tate planting somebody. And one last thing with Carnell Tate, the first play of the game is thrown to Mecca or Travion Henderson on one side of the field. The second play goes to him on the complete other side of the field, and he's got receivers blocking out there. It went 29 yards, and it doesn't take much for that one to go 70. Just as an example, just hold your blocks. With these athletes, anything can happen.
Next thing I wanted to touch on was the offensive line. I know there was, again, some consternation about the offensive line, and sometimes the run blocking wasn't there, and there were a couple times that there were rushers who got to Will Howard. No sacks allowed. Michigan State was among the best in the nation in terms of sacks coming into the game. 0 sacks allowed. I know that, I know he got drilled once. I know there was the one play later when Devin Brown almost got killed and Travion Henderson saved his life. And there were a couple times that guys got you saw guys kind of get pushed back in the backfield. By and large, though, the pass pro was pretty good. That was not a bad day for the offensive line. It feels like that's sort of coming together, and it's probably somewhat the offensive line playing better, and it's probably somewhat Chip Kelly keeping people so off balance in terms of what's coming and what's coming next. And Ross, the show that I did with Ross that dropped on Tuesday, he went through 3 consecutive plays where it's sort of one thing iterating off of another thing, iterating off another thing. It's all stuff that you've seen before, but now there's a twist, surprise twist. It's like the end of the Sting, just like, I know what's going to happen. No, I don't. That's Chip Kelly helping out his players, helping out his blockers. The line deserves a lot of credit because there were a bunch of times when Will Howard had plenty of time to sit back in the pocket and throw. Credit to Will Howard on the fact that there were times when he didn't, and he got the ball out and generally made pretty good decisions. There are a couple not great decisions. The interception, oh boy, rewatching that interception, there were a lot of places the ball could have gone that would have been better than there. And there was one in the end zone that got a defender got a hand on at one point. But by and large, Will Howard played pretty well. By and large, the offensive line pass protected pretty well.
It's interesting because he does make a ton of good decisions, and yet there's always like 2 plays a game where you're like, like a little concerning, and the throw into the end zone that should have been intercepted, and then the throw into double coverage when he was expecting man and they dropped into cover 2 and the linebacker just dropped back into coverage and basically never saw him. As long as those things happen in the first half, I guess you're going to be relatively okay. But when you never know, like the Kyle McCord drive, last minute drive against Notre Dame last year, where that one off the hands of a defender in the final minute, Kyle McCord would have 1 or 2 of those moments a game, and he got away with it in that one. And you just wonder, at some point, Will Howard still completing 75% of his passes, but there's always like 1 or 2 hinky ones in there, and you just never know. The pass protection, I agree, was really good. I jotted down that Austin Searveld had a good day in pass protection, and then I write that down, and then on the next play, he helps spring Travion Henderson for 37 yards. So a solid day all around for Austin Searveld, and he had a pancake in this one, and I shot it on my phone because Peacock is difficult about screen capturing for me anyway. And then I was told by somebody on Twitter, that's not really a pancake. He got beat. He's just lucky that the defender tripped. Which, still ended up on his back. So, and the play still happened. But I thought Austin Searveld continues to play pretty well. And still, I think it's like about a 60-40 split right now with Tigris ball and the snaps. And we'll see if that ever gets to 50-50 or starts swinging the other way. But I think they like what they've got there now.
Well, it feels like they have two good options. It's not they are playing two guys there because neither of them is playing up to the standard. It feels like they're both playing reasonably well. And, maybe that wasn't a pancake. Maybe, Tony, that was a French toast stick. I don't know, a little waffle, like a quarter of a waffle, something like that. I don't know. But it's some kind of a delicious breakfast carb, Tony. And that's the important thing. And both of those guys have been playing well. It feels like either of them could be a full-time 100% of the snaps kind of guy right now. There's no reason to rush into that. I do wonder, are you going to see that at Oregon? Really? Are we going to see them rotating right guards at Oregon? It feels like maybe you need to make a decision there and just keep the same guy in there, but we'll see. So far it's working. The road gets a little tougher this weekend with Iowa, but it's a possibility that they could, I guess, keep rotating there. How about, Tony, someone that takes a lot of grief from Ohio State fans at times?
Me?
Not grief from me, Tony. Grief from Ohio State fans. JT Tuimoloau. I tweeted out a picture of him in the tunnel last week, just him kind of yelling in his helmet, just sort of fired up before the game. And every response to it was, well, did he play today? Oh, was he around? Oh, I wish he played like wish he got that fired up while he was on the field and not just before the game. JT Tuimoloau had a really important couple of plays right before the half. It was when it was 17-7. Ohio State had just punted the ball away. It looked like they might be able to score before half to extend the lead. Instead, they punt the ball away. Michigan State gets the ball back. They had second and 5 or something like that. JT Tuimoloau gets a huge sack, gets Michigan State behind the chains. It's 3rd and 11. They then have just kind of like a little wide receiver screen play. Tuimoloau kind of gets in the passing lane. Caleb Downs blows the play up, tackles the receiver for no gain. That then set up that drive where Ohio State, this was the drive between the Jeremiah Smith rush for a touchdown and the Jeremiah Smith reception for a touchdown. That was a huge, huge play by JT Tuimoloau that I think it kind of got lost between all the other things, because you think through the big stops that Ohio State got on defense, and it's, they got the 4th down stop, and they got the two fumbles that they forced in the first half. And that, I don't know that we even talked about that JT Tuimoloau sack, but that was a really big play. And for someone that everyone's going, well, where is he? I haven't seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there he was. That was a really big play. And even then, with all the other stuff going on, we didn't talk about it. So I just wanted to kind of shout that play out.
I did see on Twitter in one of these analytic groups that tracks all of these things, talking about how Ohio State has the number one pass rush in terms of creating, I think, hurries without the use of blitzing. So I thought that was interesting that they're harassing the quarterback in a meaningful way. One defensive note that I had was that, for the concern about the run defense, and right away, I think it's the first play of the game, Michigan State, Nate Carter goes 19 yards, and then the rest of the game, Michigan State rushes for a total of 28 yards. And, it's
24 carries for 28 yards after that first play. I had that exact note. Yep. Long of 8.
And it's funny. And we get to the Woody on Tuesday, getting ready to talk to the coaches, and we're all just bantering about, like, everybody has all these questions about the defense. What's wrong with the defense? Why, this and that and this and that. And you look, and it's like, what is wrong with what is wrong with the defense? I mean, nothing is perfect, but they give up those 6 explosive plays in the first 22 minutes of the game, and then not another one until the final drive of the game, when it doesn't even matter, because that's the second and third teamers are in there at that point. But it's a problem to give up 6 explosive plays in the first 22 minutes. I agree. But then they shut everything down, and they didn't give up hardly anything the rest of the game. And I think that's still what this defense is. Now they have to eliminate those explosives, but none of them have gone super long. I mean, the longest play of the game was 26 yards. The longest ground, that was in the air. The longest rush was 19 yards, and that was right at the outset. And so I didn't realize at the time that was the first play of the game. And as I'm rewatching it, and that happens right away, I'm like, that was then, and there's like nothing after.
No, absolutely nothing after. And they had a couple plays where they had one pass longer than 20 yards, that one run of 19. Other than that, no runs longer than 8. This is, I think, maybe symptomatic of what the expectations among Ohio State fans for this defense are. And rest assured, Ohio State fans, no matter what your expectations are for this defense, Jim Knowles' expectations are higher. He said on Tuesday that he was, what would it take? What would it take for you to be satisfied with the performance? And he said, well, 0 points, less than 100 yards, 4 turnovers, and 2 defensive touchdowns. So I was kind of thinking through in my head, like, okay, they did that against Western Michigan. Okay, they did that against Western Michigan. Nope, they didn't have the 4 turnovers. Nope, didn't have the 2 defensive. The game where they gave up 0 points and 99 yards. Total failure, Tony. Total failure by the Ohio State defense. I'm surprised they gave a silver bullet of the game for that one. I mean, after such a disgraceful performance. But that's kind of the standard. The actual standard is this defense good enough to win a national championship? That's the standard. And it's hard to put numbers on that because what you're doing against Western Michigan or Marshall or Michigan State doesn't necessarily translate. This isn't like an exchange rate where you're going to Canada and that every dollar is worth X amount of Canadian dollars, $1.25 or whatever it is. It's not like, okay, well, 7 points against Michigan State works out to 10 points in, Ole Miss language, or Tennessee, for the Tennessee offense, it translates to 13 points. It doesn't work quite that well, but this is a defense that has been pretty solid. You haven't had the big busts. The tackling's been by and large pretty good all season. They've certainly had tackles they've missed, but the tackling's been pretty good. They've pretty much kept things inside. They haven't had huge busts. They haven't had tons of long plays. They've gotten off the field on third downs. They've gotten off the field with turnovers. They made a key 4th down stop in the first drive of the game. They've kind of done a lot of the stuff that you're looking for them to do. And it still feels like people are kind of like, well, I mean, that's okay, I guess. It was fine. Sure, they're number 1 in the country right now, but what if later they're not? It's like, well, I mean, that's a standard that Jim Knowles can hold them to. I just think that there's probably a little bit of an unrealistic expectation that this team is not going to hold teams scoreless all season long. That's just not how it's going to work. Well, we'll see how it translates to Iowa. I don't know, Tony. 7 points against Michigan State. What does that work out to in Iowa? 4.5? I don't know.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the defense's fault. That would be the Ohio State offense's fault, as we know. Maybe special teams. A couple of other things that I have. One, I just have written down Caleb Downs with the star. I think we all know what that means. Also, it was interesting, why are they playing so far off on some of these receivers in terms of the corners? And Jim Knowles did say on Tuesday, we need to play more press. It's like, well, I don't think you're going to get any disagreements from anybody in that one. And then my last thing, Tom, is some Jeremiah Smith stuff. The second drive, a 3rd down, he just runs like stops in the zone, a little curl action or just stopping in the zone, but then comes back to the ball just a little bit, just to get the ball before any defender can get in there. And then the one-handed catch, the first one-handed catch, thrown into double coverage, and I believe I wrote down, it's not double coverage if you throw it high enough to where only he can get it. Then it is not coverage. That's all you have to do. Just throw it to where a defender can't get it, and then you don't have to worry how many defenders are there because he can still get it. So I think they dropped 9 on that one, almost like 8.5 on that one, and they had 2 guys rushing the passer, another one just kind of staying back a little bit, and everybody else was essentially almost double covered. So if you got 3 receivers that are double covered, go ahead and just put it out of reach for everybody but one person on the planet.
that's one where you wish they had sometimes they have the camera up in the booth where the coaches are, where you can see the coordinators calling the plays. That's one where you just want to see the defensive coordinator cam, where you just like throw your arms in the air, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I had two guys right there. What do you want me to do? Jeremiah Smith is definitely a what do you want me to do kind of wide receiver, just playmaker, just, oh, hey, we just knocked the quarterback out on the last play, so they had to bring in their backup cold off the bench. He threw it. It wasn't a great pass. He put it kind of in the general area, and Jeremiah Smith then reaches his hand out and grabs it out of the air. That was 3 plays later or something like that. That's another, what do you want me to do? Like, I got nothing. I don't have anything to stop that. I'm very sorry. I'm only used to defending mortals.
Mm-hmm.
That's on me. But yeah, he is, every time you watch him, every time you watch those replays, it's just, you just kind of shake your head. What can he not do? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. He's blocking pretty well. He's fast. He can get up higher than people. He's got maybe the best hands on the team, maybe the best hands in the Big Ten. What exactly does he not do? I don't have the answer to that yet. We haven't seen him kick, Tony. We haven't seen him punt. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Maybe that's I would love to see him return kicks. I don't think they're going to let him go anywhere near being a kick returner, but I would love to see that at some point too.
JJ Janowicz.
My last couple things. Number one, I was just kind of zipping through the broadcast and just sort of skipping through between plays. I had forgotten about the weird thing at the end of the first quarter where this ball, they ran the play, and then they came back after the first quarter and said, that didn't count. Sorry, the clock ran out. Turns out our friends in Chicago said that, because I was thinking through as they got to fourth down, I was like, did they do the Colorado, Missouri 5th down thing? And then it was like, oh yeah, I forgot they made that announcement. I just sort of skipped over it in the broadcast. That was one of those, Ohio State probably changes what they do on offense. If they were on, instead of second down, instead of first down, it was really second down again to start the second quarter. But that was fortunate. That kind of ties in with your thing about going for it on fourth down. If you can get a 5th down out of things, that always is a little bit beneficial. The other thing that I missed completely live was that first Michigan State drive for the third quarter. I was still getting photos sent back to you guys, and I completely missed that first drive. I walked out as Brandon Ennis was back to receive the punt. I completely missed the Cody Simon diving interception on the screen. That was a great read by Cody Simon. Very nearly a fantastic play. I didn't see that at all. Had no idea it happened. I was walking out between the photo room and the field when that happened, so I had no idea that happened. But that was a tremendous effort and almost yet another forced turnover by that Ohio State defense.
Yeah. So anything else, Tom? You got any others you want to throw out there? Are we all set? You good?
Well, Tony, did you know that Michigan State ran for 19 yards on their first carry and then just 28 carries on 24, or 28 yards on 24 carries after that? I thought that was maybe the most interesting thing I've found. Frankly, I'm surprised you didn't notice.
28 yards on 24 carries? This is the first time hearing about this. That's amazing. That's you look for the data, you find the data, you share the data. You are the data man. So that will do it. That's what we learned on a rewatch of the Ohio State win over Michigan State. We will give you guys a recap of what we learned from Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. And of course, we've got bold predictions show coming. We've got game previews coming. This is Iowa week. Ohio State is wearing gray, all gray for the game. And you can find us there on Saturday. You can also find us here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. And also subscribe to us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a premium subscriber. Say hello to us there on the message board. That is the best way to support what we do. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.